Shalom, 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 beloved angelic family and Gentiles. Let's talk solar winds. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, fair use is invoked for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute when otherwise infringement may occur. Usages for nonprofit educational purposes tips the balance in favor of fair use. So, I don't know how many of you have heard about the Pacific Ocean's oxygen starved uh, oxygen minimum zones. It's growing, and because Princeton did a research study on it. So, you may not have heard very much about it because, they did a little article on the 6th of January. This article is dated the 6th of January this year, and they're not putting a lot of information in the news regarding these things that are happening. The Gentiles are predicting that about 2 million additional cubic miles are going to lose their OMZ. Okay, and this professor here from Princeton says that this is significant for two reasons. One, because the oxygen levels go down, vital economic species like tuna and crabs won't be able to feed, swim, or reproduce unless they relocate to ocean regions with more oxygen. Okay, this has major implications for ecosystems near the ocean's coast and the industries that depend on them, for fishing to tourism. So you have two industries here, fishing and tourism, that they're going down because this isn't going to change. And I'm going to tell you why. And then, second, the OMZs are a significant source of nitrous oxygen, a major greenhouse gas. So here we go again. We're looking at a greenhouse gas or something that's nitrogen that we need for the most part. Okay, that's not what they're saying, but that's what it means, that we're going to need that. They're going to need nitrogen. We're going to get to all of that. Here's another article saying that by the Department of Commerce that issues disaster declarations for Alaska fisheries. In this article, they state that America's fisheries are a critical part of our national economy and directly impact our local communities when disasters occur. These determinations are a way to assist those fishing communities with financial relief to mitigate impacts, restore fisheries, and help prevent future disasters. See, they're putting this out there like there's something that they can do about it. That's not going to happen. Because they issued a disaster declaration, and it allows for the possibility of receiving disaster relief assistance from Congress. The state must provide the federal government with data to support the need for such a declaration. See, these things are happening. I don't know how much, you guys are hearing about it in the news, but I didn't hear about this from the news. I heard it from another um, website from one of our people, that's not awakened, but he's continues to talk about push this heart garbage, So he had this article, and then it started ringing some bells for me. Here's another article. Ocean geoengineering scheme aces its first field test. Alkaline lime powder spread in Florida estuary drew down carbon and reduced acidification. So, and the reason they're doing this is because they say the balmy shallow waters of Apalachicola Bay off Florida's panhandle supply about 10% of U.S. oysters, but the industry has declined in recent years in part because the bay is warming and its waters are acidifying because of rising carbon dioxide CO2 levels. Things got so bad that in 2020, the state banned oyster harvesting for 5 years. Soon afterwards, state officials encouraged climate scientists to perform an unusual experiment to see whether they could reverse the changes in the water. See, they're doing all of this man made stuff, which is the reason that all of this is happening anyway because of all the things that they've done in the past. Now, they're trying to fix the mess that they've made, but the damage has been done to everything, the air, the water, the land, to the ether, to everything. There's no way to turn around what they've made a mess of because all the food has been geoengineered. They started engineering the air, the geoengineering the food, everything back in the 1900s. So now you're going to try to turn around the mess that you've already made. They were shooting bombs in the water, detonated things on the moon. All of these things that they have done in the past, over the years, the past few hundred years, however years they've been destroying the earth, it's all coming back to haunt them now. And the food is going to be gone. Everything, in all of these industries are going down, and they've done it themselves. However, they're still not telling you why all of these things are happening. Solar wind is blasting Earth's oxygen onto the surface of the moon. Now, this is a fact because when you think about it, and I cannot even claim to be a professional science student or any of that because I told you guys from the get go that all of this information, that everything I'm doing now is completely out of my field. My field is education. That it's been that for years, so I went to the top of the rung in the education field. So there was no place else for me to go. And then, legal, n- I negotiated government contracts, you know, so, I mean, none of this is in any shape, form, or fashion or realm of anything that I've ever done before. So I cannot claim an expert in this field. However, I can give you the information that I have, and then you guys can take it from there and do your own research and learn more because these solar winds are on the earth. But and I could see them, but what I did not overstand was the effects of the solar winds coming onto the earth. And this is what the Gentiles and Psalms 83 nations are really hiding. They said, "We all know that there's no air to breathe on the moon, but new evidence suggests that the lunar surface is continually being showered by oxygen escaping Earth and may have been for billions of years since Earth's atmosphere developed." Now, we all know that's a lie because oxygen was not natural to the Earth. They already know that, but they're going to throw that billions of years garbage out there again because the people don't know this, okay? So let's see what solar wind is. Solar wind is a plasma, a stream of charged particles, ions and electrons, which are continuously escaping from the sun into the planetary medium. The particles can escape from the hold of the sun because the solar corona consists of a very hot plasma of which the temperature exceeds millions of degrees. Oh boy, these people love throwing out these millions and billions and trillions of miles away and all these lies. This is a lie, okay? As a consequence, the plasma particles acquire a significant thermal agitation speed, just like the molecules in boiling liquid acquiring high speeds on microscopic scale. At a certain altitude above the sun's surface, the thermal agitation speed of electrons gets so high, several thousands of kilometers, that they can escape the gravitational attraction of the sun, carrying with them positively charged ions. In this way, the solar wind is dispersed into the planetary medium. And so that's what's happening. All of these, as the solar winds disperse, all of these particles and the oxygen is being carried out of the earth, and it has to go someplace. And that's something I hadn't really thought about. Okay, when I started seeing the solar winds, well, if the solar winds are coming here, what else is going on? How is it really affecting the earth? And then when I start looking at this other information, I found out what the answers to what's really going on and what the Psalms 83 and Gentile nations have been hiding. So, what particles does the solar wind consist of? The composition of the solar wind is similar to that of the corona. Remember, it's the sun's corona, mainly protons, hydrogen nuclei with about 10% of alpha particles, helium nuclei, and traces of heavy ions, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, silicon, iron, and magnesium. The high temperature in the corona is responsible for the complete ionization of hydrogen and helium and the elevated ionization rate of heavier atoms like oxygen and iron. When ionization happens, it's like a particle is being split into the positive and negative charges, okay? So the presence of electrons ensures the maintenance of an electrically quasi-neutral space. The solar wind is a very sparse plasma in the vicinity of Earth. It contains on average barely 10 protons per cubic centimeter. I don't believe that at all. Particles of the solar wind rarely collide. Electrons and ions cannot bond to form neutral atoms. The solar wind varies continuously with time scales ranging from a few seconds to a few years. Okay, so what I've noticed is usually when there's plasma in the earth, I don't see the particles. So when I don't sometimes when I see the particles, I know that I even though the particles are there, they're not moving, they're neutral. And that's because the plasma is so dense. Okay. So when I don't see just the plasma coming to the earth, I can see the solar wind. And the only way that I can see it is because usually it's in a red hue. I can see this red hue and I can see it kind of swirling around. Okay. So usually when something is happening, I can tell and I don't know exactly what's happening, but I have some idea. So now get this and pay attention. Earth is protected against the solar wind particles. That was then. This is now. Things have changed because before they thought that the firmament was protecting the earth from the particles. That's no longer the case. It says the magnetic field of our planet protects us against almost completely against the incoming solar wind particles by deflecting them. But there are weak zones in the natural shield. Near the poles of Earth, the funnel like openings in the magnetic shield, the polar cups, allow these particles to enter. This results in a visible phenomenon called aurora, which is the aurora borealis. So that's where it was happening before. Okay, so usually when you saw all of those colors, the greens, the pinks, it was usually we couldn't see it. It was in Alaska and in at those two poles, the South Pole and the North Pole. So there was an entrance there where the solar winds and the particles could come in. Now that's no longer the case because the solar winds, they're here. They're actually coming to the earth. And before it didn't upset the balance on the earth. There was polarity, but now that's different and they know it. Scientists have discovered that oxygen ions from Earth's atmosphere are transported to the moon once a month during a 5-day window when the lunar satellite passes through our planet's protective magnetosphere. In this time, the moon passes behind Earth, getting a short reprieve from the blast of the sun's solar wind, and is sprinkled with a stream of material fleeing Earth instead. While scientists had also suggested that traces of gases such as nitrogen could have ended up on the lunar surface after escaping our atmosphere, this is the first time researchers have shown that oxygen, one of the most important components of life on Earth, is also shipped direct to the moon. Our new findings suggest that the Earth-Moon system co-evolves not only physically but also chemically. Okay, the findings could explain a long-standing mystery about the chemical composition of rocks on the moon. And what they're not saying is that the oxygen, when the solar winds come to the earth and they push out the oxygen and the oxygen is going to the moon, that means that the oxygen on the earth is being depleted, which is part of the problem that's being caused with the fishery industry and some of these people passing out the way that they are. Okay, all of this works to good together for the good of those who love the mighty one. That's just the bottom line. All of these things are happening not by chance, because I've been thinking about this, and it was something that Big Levi said a few days ago that brought it to my attention. He said that our ancestors did not die because of smallpox and blankets that those people brought over here, because they were mighty people. Okay? And it's true. This is happening now. It had to have happened before in the past, which is the reason that our ancestors knew that those people were coming. They knew before they got here that they were coming. Our ancestors had lost their power. The mighty one had turned away from them before Christopher Columbus came here. Because if it had not happened that way, there is no way that these people would have been able to invade these lands. But what happened then is happening now. This is why they call it a pole reversal. It is a reversal, but it's not the reversal that most people are thinking. They're thinking these catastrophes and everything is being caused because of this pole shift. In a way, it is, but then in another way, it's not, because everything that's happening is spiritual. And this is something that they've not tied to the events that are going on right now. Okay, so check out this next slide. This blew my mind. The Earth's original atmosphere and our present day atmosphere. Now, Gentiles did this. This popped up on my search. It just popped up. I needed this. Didn't know what I was going to find, but I needed this. But this is the Earth's original atmosphere and our present day atmosphere. Our present day atmosphere, shown below at left, is very different from the Earth's original atmosphere at right below, which was mostly hydrogen and helium with lesser amounts of ammonia and methane. I mean, take a look at this. On the right, now I'd heard a brother say this, but I couldn't prove it. This is where we get our colors from, where our people, and this is how our people knew. This is how our people knew that they were going to have that ship to shore moment with those people because they had lost their hues. Think of Avatar. Think of Avatar. Of course, our people would have known that this was happening and that the mighty one had turned away from them because they lost their hues. They lost their strength, their power. These were mighty people when the mighty one was on their side. No one was able to touch them. So, of course, they knew before the colonizers arrived that they were going to be invaded because they had lost their hue. And this is why a lot of our people went with them and helped move against our people because they knew that the mighty one had turned away from our people and they didn't have the power. On the left, you can see nitrogen, two nitrogen atoms, two oxygen atoms. What is this? Is that an H hydrogen? That's oxygen, H2O. I'm sorry, two um, H2Os, hydrogen atoms, and oxygen, and then the argon, and then the CO2, carbon dioxide. Okay, greenhouse gas. You see that, right? You saw on the other slide greenhouse gas. This is what's in our oxygen now. But think about it. Those solar winds are coming down and they're sweeping the oxygen out of the air. What's going to happen? What's happening? What's happening? The exact same thing that happened before, where our ancestors lost their powers, is the same thing that's happening now. And they could see all of this. What I'm saying right now about the solar winds and the particles and everything coming to the earth, they were connected like that. They could see these things, so they knew what was happening. There was no surprise. Okay, on this next slide is talking about photodissociation. And photodissociation is a chemical compound by the action of light. Those were the UV rays. See, this is this is all about that light, okay? Those rays. This has everything to do about spirituality and what happens spiritual because this is all about that light. Oxygen is thought to have come from photodissociation of water vapor and carbon dioxide by ultraviolet light, UV lights. And the UV lights are really strong on the earth right now. I mean, I mean 10, 8, 9, 10, and above 3, the UV level above 3 is supposed to cause photodermatology, the problem with skin cancer and everything. If you don't have the melanin. This is what's happening. Light is able to split the H2O, the oxygen atom, and the CO2, the carbon atom molecules into pieces. Okay? And that's what the UV light from the sun is doing. The UV light from the sun is splitting apart the oxygen and carbon dioxide atoms, those molecules, and it's bringing in um, the, the solar winds and taking the oxygen out. I'm telling you, this is what's happening. I mean, they know that this is what's happening. It's telling you right here what's going on. Two of the pieces, the O, the oxygen, and the OH, then react to form O2, oxygen 2 atoms, and hydrogen. Okay, so it's splitting them apart, and you're getting the hydrogen now like what you were seeing on the first screen, you were seeing the hydrogen and it's taking away the two oxygen atoms. It's splitting them apart. See, this is here you go with the polarity. See, it balanced out when it was a H, two and the O, but now it's taking that away and it's just leaving the hydrogen and taking away the oxygen too. And this is why some of those people are passing out. I My recommendation is that if you want to know about more about this, do more research because there are people out there that are in science and engineering and they know this stuff. Now, this next slide is information that I picked up from the beloved brother Neophyte Dad. He, I don't think he knows about this information, about the solar winds, but he is giving information to prepare the family for the transition. He's talking about alkaline foods. He's actually telling you how to get the magnetism back in your body. He's giving really good information. And I put his information here, because the family really needs, I mean, if you want, I mean, it's just my suggestion, check out his website, especially the last video, because there are some very important information in that video. Okay. And I think I like the brother's page. I hope that I did because I really do like the information. And I'm just now trying to find the time to go back and listen at his videos. But he's shadow banned, so it's very difficult to get to his page unless you know what you're looking for. So I put everything here. But when you have an opportunity, please, go check out his information because he is giving really good information. Time changes not, but all things change in time, for time is the force that holds events separate, each in its own proper place. Time is not in motion, but ye move through time as your consciousness moves from one event to another. All praises to the mighty one. Much love, respect to the Mother Ruach. Great, great joy and peace to the beloved brother Hamashiach. Shalom, beloved. Shalom. Shalom.